Welcome everyone. My name is Chicoine. I am one of the financial advisors here at Wiegers Financial Benefits. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of budgeting, why it's important to budget, and how to actually start. Budgeting in its simplest form is just spending less than you make. Without a budget, it is very easy to not know where your money's going and thus spend more than you earn. Without that clear picture of your expenses and where that money is going, it's very easy for purchases, and especially those small purchases, to slip through the cracks and tip your scale of your income versus your expenses. Budgeting makes you accountable to yourself, and it gives you that permission to spend money where you've outlined, and then help yourself restrain in areas that you know that you're vulnerable to overspending. It's really important to outline what you want to spend and why it's important, which leads into your goals. Knowing what's important to you and where you want to be is the first step in budgeting. This is important because if family is more important, or your lifestyle, or maybe paying down debt, we need to set out those goals so that we know where to put our money in the specific categories within the budget and why that's really important to you. When you line up your budget with what's important to you, it'll make it a lot easier for you to stick to that budget long term. So first, once we actually get past making those goals, we need to then determine where our income is coming in and where our expenses are. It's important to account for all sources of income, so not only your employment income, maybe you have child tax benefits or other support payments. Know where everything is coming in and also know how it's coming in. Are you getting paid monthly, twice a month, bi-weekly? Once you know where your money's coming in, then we want to create two types of expenses budgets. The first one is going to be your expense budget of what you actually think you're spending in a month, and the second is going to be what you're actually spending in a month. And if you're like most people, you're going to find that what you think you're spending and what you're actually spending are two completely different things. On the budget where you complete what you're actually spending, I find it very helpful to go back for 3 months and look through all your credit card and debit statements and actually categorize all of the spendings that come through the month. It's okay if you don't necessarily know what a certain expense was because you can't remember. Categorize that still in your budget and then start tracking it on a month-to-month basis. The next step is to actually separate your needs from your wants. Needs are things that you can't live without. You need a roof over your head. You need a car to get you from point A to point B. You need food on your plate or to pay off your debts. And you might find it interesting that I've also put savings and investments up there, but it is important that you put this as a need, because if you don't pay yourself first, it's really easy to find out that there's nothing left over at the end of the month to save. So pay yourself first, set that money aside for a goal. That might be to create an emergency fund because you don't have one. It might be for travel, a new car, for retirement, but put that in your budget first and then move on to your wants. Wants are things that you can live without, but you enjoy these things. You can live without eating out, you can live without a new vehicle or junk food or your coffee, but you still want these things. And wants can add up pretty quickly. If you think about eating $10 or eating out for $10 twice a week, $20 a week, that's easily over $1,000 a year. And if you think about what you actually need to make to spend that $1,000 and you're in a 33% tax bracket, you're now making $1,500 just to spend that $1,000. So know what your needs are and know what your wants are. Once you know what your needs and your wants are, then we can move on to the next step of actually creating your budget. Let's put it all together and plan going forward. The image up here is just going to be kind of an outline of something that you can follow, but put your needs first on your budget, and then around those needs, we're going to start to create a budget on the wants. It's also very important to plan ahead and then save for those annual expenses that are going to come up. That can be property taxes, vehicle registrations, gifts that you know are going to be coming up through the year. Make sure that you're setting money aside on a monthly basis for those expenses, because when those expenses come up, the last thing we want to do is go towards debt and then have to service that debt over the next year with an interest rate. Once we've actually created the budget, then we're going to move on to the next step, which is monitoring and updating the budget. No budget is perfect, and no person is perfect either. So monitor that budget on a weekly or monthly basis. As you get better following your budget, you'll need to monitor it on a less frequent basis. But when you start out, I do like to try to say monitoring it on a weekly basis is again going to keep yourself accountable to that budget. And then periodically review it and reevaluate your expenses. And if you get overspending in one area, don't get down on yourself because budgets take time and you're not going to balance your budget in the first month that you try it. So once you find out if you are overspending in one area, review that area and find out, is it actually a really important area to me that I didn't allocate enough money to? And if that's the case, where can I then trim expenses in other areas of my budget? Or maybe you'll realize that that's not really important to you, and then you can go back and see where and why you're overspending in that area and how to actually curb those expenses. Then update it and continue on with monitoring and updating it. Budgeting, again, is not perfect, and no one's perfect. You're not going to get it right in the first month, but when you start, you'll be empowered to continue. Thank you so much, and good luck budgeting.